Welcome to the Mark of Men. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and we'll be talking about, you guessed it, men. Through conversations about highs, lows, and everything in between, you'll learn about each guest. But more than anything, you'll learn a little bit about yourself, or the men in your life. Today's marksman is Mario De Leon. Mario is a painter, muralist, and apprentice tattoo artist. He walks us through his journey of taking art from a fascination as a child to a full-blown profession, making murals all around the Pacific Northwest. We hope you enjoy the show, and remember to like and subscribe.
Nice.
Well, Mario, welcome to the Mark of Men.
How we doing?
Dude, we're doing good. It's good to have you on.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, man. There's, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was because there's a lot of different things that kind of make up art, right?
Yeah.
You have woodworkers, you have people that sew, you have people that, do all kinds of different things, sculptors. And an artist it's a unique breed, and it's a unique skill set. And, I wondered, what is the art style that the artist that you represent?
That's a good question. I actually ask myself that a lot, especially like like the project that I'm currently working on that I told you about, right? So I'm working like with other artists and things like that, and we always talk, and the different types of artists that show up. I feel like everybody, and I'm not saying it's wrong, right? Because it works for a lot of artists. Everybody finds like a niche, and they stick with that niche. Me, since I was, and this relates to the question that you're saying, but since I was a child, I've struggled to focus on things. So I've never had a niche. I never had one thing where it's like been like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do that style forever. Okay. Or it's a difficult thing because, like I said, it's like I'm doing some portraits in downtown Vancouver. But when I get home, right, with my kids, I get to drawing, and I'm literally doing a fucking little cartoon because it's like, oh, bro, this shit's dope. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, right. Literally, I'm doing it in crayons because I'm just like, hey, bro, I'm like, oh man, I want to do this. Like, I don't want to practice a fucking portrait. Fuck that, because I'm already doing one. You know what I'm saying?
So does it specifically revolve around drawing? So pen, spray, painting.
Yeah, it's like whatever. I mean, obviously, what pays the bills? What is spray paint? But as of like what content wise and creative wise, it's like me looking at that your Mario Kart poster. That's what's gonna inspire me to paint Bill Russell for some reason. Like that's gonna inspire. Why? I've never seen that fucking poster, and I'm like, oh, bro, that's fucking cool. Guess what? This next portrait I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have that fucking cool poster on my mind because I've never seen that.
That's cool.
It's weird. It's fucking weird. And I don't do it on purpose. It's this thing where it's like I have to look at something else that does not involve this to be like, you know what? Let me do this. Confirm what I'm doing. Right. And so yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I always say it's life. My artwork is life based. Okay. Yeah.
So were you always thinking this way in terms of when did you really find that you had a knack for it?
When my dad got remarried, right? So my parents got divorced. My mother left us when we were kids, right? And then they got divorced. And then we went a long time just being raised by my father and my grandparents. And it was I would always draw because that would get my mind off things, right? And I would see drawings, like the Dragon Ball Z stuff you have, the Street Fighter stuff you have. I was always a big fan of it. And I would see that shit, but I didn't know it was possible until my dad got remarried. And that's where I met my older stepbrother, who's an older brother now, right? He would draw things, bro, that I would only think was done with computer. That I thought it was done only with computer, right? But he would just do a lot of pencil work. But even then, his pencil work was so beautiful. It was like, it was unreal. And that's when I was about 10 when my dad met him, when he met my stepmom. And I would always attach to different people that could draw. I didn't care if you could draw immaculate. If you could draw a fucking finger the correct way, I was, bro, like, what the fuck? Like, that's what it was for me, because I was like, bro, I'm like, you did that. That's cool. Like,
Right.
that's all that mattered to me. I was like, bro, I'm like, you could have drew a fucking elbow for all I gave a fuck. But I was like, bro, that's fucking cool. And so, I remember he did this Spawn character. The first time I saw his artwork, he was drawing Spawn. And he was like, hey, bro, he's like, oh, you like to draw? Because I did this Dragon Ball Z drawing. And he's like, oh, you like to draw? I was like, yeah. He's like, I draw too. I was like, and at the time, I always thought it was hot shit, even when I was a kid, right? And then he's like, yeah, let me show you what I did. And bro, literally damn near shit my pants when he showed me this drawing. That's like the ultimate like thing for me. I was like, bro, I'm like, this motherfucker almost made me shit my pants. How good he was.
That's cool.
My anxiety level just went through the fucking roof. I was like, and my dad's dating his mom. I'm like, yeah. So I'd make sure that I would stay the night at his house every weekend.
Oh, that's
before
cool.
they got married, before we all lived together. And he liked video games too. He loved wrestling. And I made sure to stay at their house every weekend to play video games, and we would draw till like 5, 6 in the morning.
Oh, that's awesome. How much older than you?
He was 17 at the time, and I was barely 10 or 11.
Oh, so this is like a superhero.
Yeah.
Because dude, as a kid, you know, and especially young, there aren't a lot of us that are talented at that young of an age.
Yeah.
But the very first superstars that you ended up running across as a kid were people that could draw.
Yeah.
They could draw, and it was magic, because it was like you see something, you're like, I don't even know how that's possible.
Yeah, and you know, not to cut you off, but there was this like I said, I always attack anybody who could do something cool like that. I would attack, even it, like I said, it could have been the random fucking thing that somebody did on an envelope. I remember my dad's cousin. He knew only how to draw the Ninja Turtle heads. That's all he knew how to draw, and I thought he was a god. I was like, bro, I'm like, and I remember how he did it. He placed one up top, two on the sides, and one at the bottom. And I was like, bro, I'm like, this man is. I'm like, he's the next fucking
Picasso.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, as I like 6, 7 years old, I was like, this man is a fucking genius.
Right.
I'm like, he did the Ninja Turtles. I'm like, how can you be my sensei? You know what I'm saying? But it was just little things like that, bro. I'd always attach to. I think it's because of my mother leaving us as kids, like an attachment issue. So if you did something cool, if you did something that I liked, I would always
kind of attach,
be like, oh, bro, like, show me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How'd you do that?
So did you start picking up techniques, or were you just drawing so much that, you know, because I would draw a little bit, and I'd draw the Dragon Ball Z characters and stuff, but
yeah,
shading I didn't understand. Drawing hands were absolutely impossible for me. And then, you know, I'd come across some artists, and there would be like techniques on how to get the position of the face right. You know, you draw the circle and the line, and actually building those techniques. Or were you always able to just create what you were trying to create?
So it's weird because as a kid, I would always copy things. I would never come up with my own stuff. I only had one character. I remember his name was like Super Duck or something like that. But I would always copy things, and I would look at cool pictures. And me and Ivan, that's the name of my older brother, Ivan. We would always go buy these wizards. They were called wizards, these comic book magazines. And he would always be like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, because he would always draw his own shit. He would copy too, right? He would look at something and draw it, but he would draw his own shit too. And he would always tell me, he's like, bro, just practice. He's like, you'll get there, man. Just practice. Like, just practice. And I didn't really get it. I was like, bro, like how the hell is this man just telling me just to practice? I'm like, you know, I get so frustrated because he was self-taught, right? And he learned from me like his cousin, but his cousin was self-taught, right? Okay. So, we would just look at these things, and the more that I kept doing it through all these years, I could look back and be like, when he said kept doing it, or just copy that drawing. You like Spider-Man, draw Spider-Man. You like Goku, draw Goku. You like Fathom, draw Fathom. I started taking things from those because it's like the human anatomy. You know what I'm saying? It's the human body. So I would literally take things from those and apply it to my own stuff.
That's cool.
And I understood when he said that, because I would look at some of his and be like, oh, that's how he learned how to draw that fucking hand. Is because he was drawing Fathom, he was drawing Spawn, he was drawing all those things. He would study like Michael Turner's comic book drawings all the time, and it's like, bro, like, okay, that's why, because he's seen it so many times done in different ways. he could do it.
He could create it for himself.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you till you started finding yourself coming into your own artistic ability?
Oh, I was 11.
Okay.
I said I was gonna do. I mean, my own like own ability, but I said I was gonna do it forever at 11.
Okay.
I remember like it was yesterday. I was like, bro, I remember I was doing a Dragon Ball Z drawing, and Ivan showed me how to do some things. I did about 75% of it correct, right? Mm-hmm. And my stepmom even framed it. I ended up selling this drawing to some kid in the 7th grade. Yeah, yeah, bro. Like that, bro. I was trying to hustle that shit, bro.
Right.
And I was when I did it, I was like, bro, I told myself, I was like, I'm gonna do this forever. Like there's no doubt, like whether I do it for a living or not, I'm just gonna do it forever. And yeah, I'm so far.
Years old.
Yeah, at 11. Yeah,
that's what's up. So you're drawing. When did you end up getting into like because you see the graffiti all over the street, and some of it's beautiful, some of it just look like tags. Did you ever participate in that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not as, like I said, I tell people like I did it, but I tell them in the same way. Yeah, I also do oil paintings. I also did airbrush. Everything had a phase for me. You know what I'm saying? And so I did it. Like I said, it has to be a blue moon for me to actually go out there now. But it always it attracted me. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I had fun doing it. Like I said, I even the shit I used to tag, I even got it tattooed on my hand. I was so in love with the style of graffiti. I looked up to a lot of graffiti artists. Shout out to Clockwork, rest in peace, Clockwork from Europe. One of my favorite graffiti artists of all time, and it was a thing, but it was just another phase for me. You know, it was something that like I needed to do it. Not just that, but like I said, I had cousins who were in gangs, so I was trying to differentiate at the time. I was like, okay, there's that. I'm like, and then there's this. I'm like, they're both considered graffiti, but one looks different than the other. I'm like, what's what? And so I just had to get involved to know what was what and to see how far it could take me, to learn the craft of using spray paint. And it was fun.
So, since I seem to have jumped ahead a little bit.
That's all good.
You started off with like cartoon characters, Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where did it go from there?
To portraits. I remember I did my first portraits when I was a freshman in high school. I did my first 2 portraits, and it was of Tupac and Biggie.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, and like so, I was like going through a lot. My older brother ended up moving out. You know what I'm saying? He moved out. Like I think we only lived together for maybe about a year or 2. Okay. Right, and then he ended up moving out because he was already older. And then so I like I said, this is when I started like dabbling into graffiti and shit like that. Once he left, because he's the one that kept me grounded. Okay. But once he left, I started doing graffiti and then started going into portraiture and shit like that, right? Because I would see these dope graffiti pieces with like these beautiful portraits, these characters with them and shit like that. I'd be like, bro, like that's fucking dope. I'm like, I want to be that, right? And but I did these 2 portraits of Tupac and Biggie when I was like, freshman in high school. And that led down to like the fine arts, me like, which is weird because I was doing graffiti and doing learning fine art by myself at the same time.
That's so cool.
So I go do graffiti. I have my black books, go do my little throwies or whatever, practice my hand styles, and then when I get home, I'd be like one day with that throwy, one day with that little piece that I did or whatever. I'm going to go do this beautiful portrait next to it. Or I'm going to do this badass character that looks like it's a portrait, that looks real next to it. I'm like, it's just going to be the flyest fucking thing ever.
That's so cool. Yeah. How many hours would you say you spent a day drawing?
A lot.
Really?
A lot. I can't.
So that's you. That is your pastime.
That's your TV time. That and Madden.
Okay.
That and Madden, bro. That and Madden, bro. I mean, that's a whole. I could go down the wormhole of Madden all day, bro. I'm a big Madden junkie. And you could ask my kids about it too. And so that was literally my drawing was my escape from listening to the teacher, because if I wasn't drawing, I would be falling asleep. I was never a really disrespectful kid to my teachers. Right. I just didn't give a fuck what they were saying. Well,
and that generalist approach to education is already problematic. I think we're seeing like right now that young men are having a hard time staying in school, staying engaged. Yeah. Even in college. Yeah. And you know, if you kind of dialed into your passion,
Yeah.
move in that direction. So I mean that totally makes sense. And again, man, I remember growing up in the Bay Area. You know, we had some of the
Beautiful graffiti out there too, bro.
oh my
Heavy
goodness.
hitters in the Bay Area.
Yeah, the graffiti was always, I mean, out of this world. It was beautiful. You couldn't read it. You know, it was almost like a secret language. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So you're looking at these things, you're like, this is amazing. And then I got a chance to get kind of, I'd intermingle with some of the cholos,
Yeah.
and their artists were,
Fantastic.
I to this day, man, it's rare I see artwork other than yours that's quite as beautiful.
Thanks, bro.
You know, it's I always just found it so magical. And then, you know, people that could draw. My buddy had a brother who was a like top level anime artist, and it was just like everything he did was magic, and it just I didn't have the ability to kind of keep pursuing it. But so you poured yourself into it completely.
I put my eggs in one basket, bro. I was like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I'm gonna do this shit. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if I'm broke. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm not rich, but nonetheless, it was like, bro, I remember when I used to sleep on the fucking floor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I told myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm broke. I'm like, but I'm practicing my craft. I'm like, and that's all that matters to me.
Where were you staying?
I was living with my dad.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and then
was he supportive of your
he
pursuit?
he was, but in the back of his mind, like, my dad's a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Okay.
so he's an artist and he knows that. And as a young man, he was like in bands and shit like that. And what I love about my father is even though we you know what I'm saying? Because he's from Mexico. I was born here. We have somewhat cultural differences. But he knows the arts because he's a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And not one time, unless we would get in arguments about dumb shit, but not one time, I don't think, and he never said it out of malice, but he's like, bro, he's like, you say you're an artist, but you're not doing it. You know what I'm saying? But he never gave up on me.
Mm-hmm.
That was the beautiful thing. Like I said, we grew up without a mother.
Yeah.
If my father were to give up on me, right? Now, let's say we didn't agree. He wasn't rich. He couldn't always give me the things that he wanted. Why? Because, you know, he wasn't rich.
Right.
But nonetheless, he would, even when, because we had a small restaurant, bro, the size, you know, a little bit smaller than this. And he would always show off my drawings to the customers.
That's
like I said, we weren't rich, bro. Like, far from. And he would always show my drawings to the customers.
Mm-hmm.
And hoping somebody would buy one.
And he never dissuaded you from doing it.
He never did it. Whether I went years, I couldn't sell one of my drawings for $50 fucking dollars, and he would still show my drawings to people.
That's cool.
And hoping somebody would buy one.
You know, and this is a conversation for us for a later date because I know we've talked about it, especially our community.
Yeah.
And the critical role that fathers play in a young man's life, and to see, you know, because again, finding your way, it's a brutal process.
Yeah.
You know, and one that does not involve stability, funds, especially for something as abstract as art.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because my grandparents didn't like it.
Oh, I bet.
My grandparents. So even then, my dad would just. I remember when I was 26 years old, bro. I just actually had this conversation with my homie yesterday because he met me around that age. I was 26 years old and I did a mural, an airbrush mural. Like I said, I wasn't doing this shit full time. I didn't even have a job. I didn't have a fucking car. I was living at my tia's. I was just bumming it, you know?
Mm.
And I remember he's like, oh yeah, bro. I'm like, when I first met him, he's like, oh, you painted that? I was like, yeah. I'm like, but I'm gonna go get a job at UPS or something. I'm like, Mike doesn't make any money. I'm like, and I remember when I told my dad, I was like, yeah, Dad, I'm like, Dad, I fucking hate this shit. I was like, I remember like it was yesterday. We were in my grandfather's Buick. It was like a fucking 97 Buick. And I was like, Dad, I fucking hate art. I'm like, I've been doing this shit for so long. I'm like, I can't make a dime. I'm like, I'm like, all these people are making livings at this and none of them are artists. I'm like, I fucking hate this. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I've been doing this since I was 11 years old. My dream is to make a living at it. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, and, but I remember the first time ever, he just stayed quiet and just didn't say a word. And then like 2 weeks later, I was drawing and painting again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
he
and
knew.
he knew. He's like,
You just need to vent.
yeah, he's like, yeah, this motherfucker, all he does is smoke weed and paint. I'm like, you're telling me you're gonna quit? Even my dad knew. He's like, yeah, you're full of shit. Yeah, yeah,
That's good. I mean, it's good you were full of shit because look at you now, right?
yeah,
When so you were still perfecting the craft when you were going through the graffiti.
yeah.
Eventually, what pulled you out of doing graffiti?
Bro, it was this whole thing of like, it was either I make money at this and I figure it out, or I'm first and foremost, graffiti wasn't paying the bills. Graffiti wasn't, and I love it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I fucking love that shit. But as of for me personally, it wasn't paying my bills, and the cats I was around did not have the same motivation as me to try to do it for a living.
So it's a culture of its own.
It's a culture of its own. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's a culture. It's like what I do now. That ain't graffiti.
Okay.
It's art, right? And so it's, but even then, graffiti is art. The lines are fucking blurred. People get real fucking, well, it's not this, it's not that. No, bro. Both of them are art. One just happened to be illegal, right? Now, to what extent is artwork illegal? That's a different conversation, right? And so, to what extent is graffiti? That's a different conversation. There's different styles, but it was just this thing where I was like, bro, I'm like, you keep all that real shit that you say. I mean, you could keep that. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, you have your own interpretation of that. I'm like, but to me, to make a living at this, I'm like, whether I'm painting letters, painting fucking portraits, I had to turn a leaf. And I was like, bro, like, I'm tired of being broke. I'm tired and first and foremost, because I wasn't a one-trick pony.
You had skills.
I had skills, and I couldn't do it. Like, even like, and the only reason why is it. So to the graffiti artist, I was too much of a fine artist. To the fine artist, right, to like people I was trying to get to, like that were like established in that, I was too much of a graffiti artist to them, right?
Which is funny how cliquish everything can be.
It's so cliquish.
Which I wonder, because these narratives come up in almost everything, right?
In everything, yeah.
And it's like, well, you're not a real one. You're not like us.
Yeah.
It's like, what is like us?
Even within like the mural, the big muralists, you're important. We were just having this conversation 2 days ago. It was like, so if you're not part of these groups, I'm like, they totally discredit you as an artist.
Why?
Because you're not part of their group, right? You're not a part of like the machine.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you will. And if you're not a part of the machine, then you're not a real artist. You're not a real designer. Right? Unless you make it on your own and make a name for yourself. But if you don't have a panel of people approving your work, if you don't have this umbrella organization, company, or whatever, then technically you are not an artist. You haven't done anything great, quote unquote, for you to for your work to have value, or you haven't done anything to establish yourself, quote unquote. Right.
Which is what a lot of governing bodies of anything seem to be.
Exactly.
Right? Sports, in jiu-jitsu they have IBJJF, and if you're not a part of that, you're not really you see a lot of that happen. And I get it, to create power for something, to create an economy for what you're doing, you want buy-in, but I always found it so limiting, especially, communities like ours where, you're trying to propel yourself forward, and it's like, oh, if you do that, you're not one of us.
Yeah, and on both sides.
Yeah.
Why do you paint the Ninja Turtles? Only paint Mexican things. Why do you paint Mexican things? Why don't you paint fucking Abe Lincoln or some shit?
Right.
I'm like, bro, how about this? I'm like, I'll just keep doing what I do. And when I paint something Aztec, I'll paint something Aztec. If I want to paint Dragon Ball Z, I'm going to paint Dragon Ball Z. And if I want to add something Aztec in Dragon Ball Z, I'm going to add it in Dragon Ball Z. I'm like, that's just how I paint.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just how I create. I'm like, and it's yeah, I have, like I said, the only reason why I still do it is because I have people that anybody who's got work from me, got a mural from me, understands that. That like, this motherfucker can't focus. And so he's gonna come do this. He's gonna do this cultural piece over here, and he'll be back in a month or two because he's gonna go do He's gonna go paint some cheeseburgers and some shit.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I've always loved most because, I find myself drifting. The whole thing with this, what I'm trying to do with this podcast is like, I want to talk about serious issues and then I want to talk about things that are just things that involve us as men. And it doesn't have to, I do feel, and I don't know if it's a cultural thing or not. I haven't lived in another country yet. So it's hard to say if, like, I do find that pieces of American culture seem to expect specificity. Yeah. So it's like you need to focus on this one thing, and there's this rigidity that doesn't allow for fluidity, for a person to be, I can be that and I can be this, So for you to be able to just continue to, and you're making money now. Yeah. So actually, when did that pivot happen and you were able to actually start bringing in some money?
When I kind of had to like put my pride to the side on certain projects. Like I was like, oh, right, fuck. I'm like, this person wants a steak painted. Fuck it. I'm like,
well, and
it was hard for me to used to do that. I'm like, bro, I don't want to go into this restaurant and paint a fucking ham sandwich and their lemonade that they have on sale. I'm like, I don't want to do that. But I was like, you know what? I'm like, anybody who says, bro, why you do that shit is like, that's not real, or you're not a graffiti artist. The majority of people who told me that shit, bro, don't do artwork for a living. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so it's real enough for me to go work at some warehouse, right? To go fucking sell dope. I'm like, it's all that shit is real. I'm like, and I could hate my life doing it, but if I make money off my craft because I'm painting some dude's family who happens to be all white, right? It's not his fault, right? In the restaurant now, like, that's not real. Yeah. I'm like, it just happened to be.
And you're doing what you love.
Yeah, I'm doing what the fuck I love. I'm like, who gives a fuck? I'm like, to a certain extent, I'm like, you can't care to a certain point because I'm never gonna be able to please everybody.
Yeah. The whole idea that, and you hear a lot of that talk with people that want to be entrepreneurs, people that are not entrepreneurs. Yeah. They're like, you don't want to work for somebody else. You don't want to do, and the whole thing is that if you're going to make money doing anything, you're in service to whoever's paying you. That's a big difference between, how mentally did you just divorce yourself from it, or did you still struggle with it?
Every now and then, oh, absolutely. I have to struggle with it. I remember some pieces with like the American flag I didn't want to do. I used to not want to be around certain individuals. But I'm like, you know what? I'm like, who am I? First and foremost, who am I to judge people? Second, like I said, I had to put my pride to the side and be like, okay, I'm like, I just have to do that thing. I'm like, and that thing is to paint. And me judging whatever people are doing outside of, hey, I have a job for you, is not my obligation. Right. Right. And to a certain extent, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I defend my work. Right. I've had to defend my work for painting a fucking Native American guy first and not a white guy first. That's for a different show, right? We'll talk about that. Yeah, I've had that, and this was for like city entities and shit, right?
The order of who you paint first has been an issue.
Has been an issue, right? Because it wasn't a white person first.
Oh wow!
Right? So it's like when I tell people, I'm like, you have no clue the battles that we're fighting behind closed doors, and some things shouldn't even be an issue, right? Because when we're focused on the bigger picture, these battles are being fought. You know what I'm saying? And it's just weird, man. Like I said, like all of a sudden I went from being this guy that just wanted to put up his paintings, put up things that he loves and enjoys, to all of a sudden people being like, oh, well, why'd you paint this? Why'd you paint that? And I remember telling people, I'm like, bro, because I fucking want to. I'm like, oh, well, that's not professional of you. I'm like, well, you're literally getting mad at me right now because I painted a Mexican person first, or I painted a black person first. You're getting mad at me right now. So yeah, I'm responding this way. I am going to raise my voice at you, and I don't care what rank you have in the city. Right? I'm like, No, absolutely not.
And you get that from both sides, don't you?
I get it
'Cause
from both sides.
you've mentioned before in a previous conversation we had that, I think you were painting a black person in a Mexican neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you were getting some heat for that.
Yeah, and so it was I painted Tupac, Biggie, and Nipsey, and yeah, just ignorance. There was just some ignorance, and I was like, bro, like, why would you paint black people in your neighborhood? I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure all the homies listen to these people.
Yeah.
That's why. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like, these are things that tie us together, and I think people don't like that I paint that type of stuff. That I literally paint shit that everybody enjoys, everybody thinks about, everybody knows to the core, right? That there's nothing malice about it.
Do you feel like some of the people get possessive of the art?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Tell me more about that. What is it about the art that people become so possessive of? What is it?
It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with, it's like, in ancient times, everybody had their artists, right?
Yeah.
Everybody had their artists. Everybody, you got to listen to what I'm saying. Everybody had their artists, right? And so for somebody, and it's, which is weird, bro, because when you're working in, I'm just gonna fucking say it. When you're working in the nonprofit realm here in Portland, everybody wants their artists, right? And nobody wants me to stray away from, like, just for instance, like certain type of community work that I'm just like, bro, I'm like, no, I'm like, I literally paint anything for everybody. Right? Because sometimes it was like, just paint Mexican things. I think we were saying this. Just paint black things, right? Just paint religious things. Because I do work for the Christian churches. I do also do work for Muslim organizations. Right? And people ask me, well, why do you do that? You shouldn't do this. I'm like, you know why I do it? I'm like, because we're all fucking human beings.
Yeah.
That's why.
The city of Portland specifically.
Yeah.
There's a big push for inclusivity.
Yeah.
That is, the intention of it is excellent, but the application of it is, it's missing some things. And one of the things is that, in the spirit of inclusivity, people want to prioritize performative things.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to use the proper pronouns. I want to speak in the right way. I want to make sure that nobody's offended, but I don't want you to paint things that are outside of my stuff. I want you to be, that almost possess you.
Yeah. And so, like, it was like this one thing. So I painted, it's a Mexican music group called Los Angeles Azules, right? And I painted that in Rockwood, and I tell people, I'm like, see, murals like that, right? Murals like the Tupac one, murals like my Ariel Camacho one, like when I had Cantinflas up. I tell them, like, bro, I'm like, or like the Zapata that I used to have up here, right? I used to have a Zapata. I think it was like, it was used to be on the Northwest Cannabis Club when that existed.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm like, none of these, and everybody's like, well, like, if you would have gone to these community organizations, all you would have to do is a write up, and they'd probably approve it. I'm like, no, they wouldn't have. Like, no, they wouldn't have. Mario would have been a nobody. I would have been nobody. I'm like, all the work that I've produced, I'm like, they want to be like, these organizations need to be able to approve things, right? So it's like the Los Angeles Azules mural, where I believe Rockwood's like 95% Mexican, right? And on that store, right, on the store of the 7-Eleven, that's where I painted it, and some people were tripping about it, some people weren't, but it's like, bro, I'm like, nonetheless, that artwork had to be put up. Why? I'm like, because if you're speaking to the community that's there, they know who the Los Angeles Azules are, right? That's a core. I'm like, that is speaking to their hearts,
right? Why?
Because everybody who's Mexican, everybody who's Latino listens to them, right? It's. I'm like, you think you think a nonprofit? No, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm like, we need those nonprofits because some of them do help, right? But not everybody needs to be under those umbrellas.
No.
Right? There always needs to be checks and balances, right? I'm nobody perfect. I'm nobody to be speaking in the community, right? I fucking smoke weed, go to strip clubs, allegedly. You know what I'm saying? I do all like, I ain't nobody perfect, bro. Like I said, I'm a product of my environment, but at the same time, these are things that it, that need to be done. It's like one of the homies, he hit me up, and I did this beautiful traditional Mexican pieces, this indigenous artwork, and I told him, I was like, bro, I'm like, just know, I'm like, you're stepping outside of Portland's comfort zone with this. I'm like, and you're setting a trend. So I'm like, just letting you know, I'm like, we're gonna paint something beautiful, but know that you were being a renegade for getting a mural and not going through art organizations. And I just think it's cool because nothing we're doing is illegal. And so I just think it's cool that he's like, yeah, bro, all right, let's do it.
Which is cool because, to disempower the artist by going through the organization. Yeah. And not to say that the organizations don't have value, but the thing is to forcing you into that, into working with them so that they get to retain power and control. Yeah. And the truth is that, being here in the city, you should be kind of proud to pay directly your artist. Even as much as if you're in a Latino community, getting a Latino mural. If you're in the black community, getting a black one. If you're in just the city and having any of that. So long as it represents us.
And the thing is, too, sorry to cut you off. People think it's so difficult to be able to talk to community, to different communities, right? Like, for example, people think it's really hard to talk to the brown and the black community, right? When it comes to artwork. But let's not fucking kid ourselves, bro. It's really easy to talk to humans when you're giving them what they need, want, like, what fills their spirit with real nutrients, what touches their soul. And sometimes what touches their soul is a little bit of pop culture and a little bit of history. Yeah. And sometimes you have to put that shit together for the human to listen.
You do. Because you marry the past to the present.
Absolutely.
And it's a thing that brings us forward. And one of the things about, and this is Portland, we're here. Portland spends so much time worried about offending people. Yeah. That you disempower everybody because the person that's going to be disgruntled about anything you do is speaking up. Yeah. And the thing is that there are people that have legitimate issues, but there are people that are going to have issues with anything. Yeah. And, all you have to do is engage in the conversation. If you're too afraid to offend somebody, then you're not even able to talk at all. Yeah. And it's one of the things that really...
I used to be like that, bro, with my artwork. Like I used to be like that. I used to be like, bro, you know what? I'm like, maybe if I paint this mural, right? I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm like, if I paint this mural, I'm gonna people are not gonna like it. But I was like, you know what? I'm like, fuck it. I'm like, because there's hella murals. I'm like, that I don't like. Yeah. The city didn't come to talk to me. I'm like, they want to go talk to some fucking small panel of like 6-7 people, maybe 15 the most. I'm like, they want to go talk to them. They didn't go door to door asking people.
No, and the panel are generally people that don't resonate with the community anyway. Yeah, and that was one thing I always got frustrated about. Being a part of the black community. It's like the person that would get to speak on our behalf is not the person any of us are talking to. You know what I mean?
Like, I dig it, bro. Yeah.
It's just like you look at it and it's like none of us relate to them. Yeah. And they're like, well, I stand, and it's like, you're rehashing old civil rights leadership presentations, and that's not what we're dealing with.
That's anymore. Not what we're dealing
with.
It's
a different time, different issues, different needs. The community needs different things. Yeah. You know what? We need representation. What does that look like? Oh, we just need to put black people here. No. That's not what we need. What we need is those of us that are trying, those of us that have something to say, those of us that are saying things that you're not comfortable with, but that are saying honest, genuine things that do resonate with the community. You need to let them speak, not the ones you're comfortable with.
Exactly, bro. And see, and that's the thing. Especially with artwork, bro. It's like you got. I remember when I started to work with nonprofits, right? And I told them, I was like, we can't work together. I'm like, 'cause it's not going to work. And they would ask, well, why? I'm like, well, because you want all the paintings to look like kids did it.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing is, I'm not talking about everybody, but I'm just saying in the most areas where we need some cool shit to where who's tagging shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying to cater to the people that are tagging shit, but what I'm saying is at least give them, you need to speak to those people, right? With some cool artwork that they like. I'm like, you have to give the people something that they like.
Yeah. Which was always one of the things I hated about inner city artwork.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
They always belittled us. And it was always like, it's like, give us something grand.
Yeah.
Give us something spectacular. And the thing is nothing.
Nothing.
A history book.
And no funding for it.
No.
Either. No funding. And if there's maybe like, trust me, bro, I've been through the ringer with it. And so it's like, but anybody, like I said, anybody who gets these murals, especially if you get a mural from me, bro, it's like you're supporting an independent muralist. And not just that, you're keeping artistry alive.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's a slippery slope because this goes back to the whole graffiti thing, right? This go back to being real or whatever. Why I love graffiti, but like I said, I can't always do it, right? Because it's that fuck you to the man,
right?
It's that beautiful fuck you to the man that it pisses you off so much that somebody scribbled their name somewhere that it ruins your fucking week, right? So like, it's a big fuck you to the man, and I love that shit.
Yeah, but here's the thing,
But like, there's always a but too.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I like the fuck you to the man. I really do. Because he needs to hear it from time to time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's other times where I sometimes feel like we have to make room to where we have to be able to open a dialogue with the man.
Yeah.
Because the man might have some, because it's not like the man is heartless completely, but it takes a long time for our message to reach them, and then they have to oftentimes diminish it. But I want the man to give us some resources so that we can have something beautiful.
Yeah, and even then, see, absolutely. But even then, bro, like why I started painting my murals, and I told myself, I'm like, with resources or not, it's our jobs to make our neighborhoods better.
Yeah.
With resources or not, right? And so but even then, that's just me, and that's why I went to go do the Zapata mural years ago.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, you know what, fuck it.
Did you do that for free?
Fuck yeah.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Like I said, but the majority, I've been doing this shit for a long time, bro. I'm doing murals it just, some murals have been covered up, some haven't, right? But it's like, bro, like the majority of the shit is free, and they're cultural, and they speak to the most, what's the word? I hate fucking saying it. They speak to people, the most underrepresented people, right? And I hate saying that people are it makes me feel bad about my people. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird fucking phrase to say.
That they're underrepresented.
You know what I'm saying? Like I hate saying that shit because I'm just like, bro, no, we're a great people. You know what I'm saying?
We don't get the opportunity. I don't feel like anybody in America is really properly represented.
No, absolutely. There we go. Properly represented. Not underrepresented, yes, but not properly represented.
I don't have an issue with either word, but I do see where the discomfort is, because my whole issue with history is that you don't give it, by not giving it to us honestly, you don't give us a chance to use it to build ourselves up.
Yeah.
So some people use it in some way, some people use it in another. One of the things about art is that it attaches us to history in the way that we understand the world most, and that is through our eyes.
Yeah.
And so much of that disconnect, like to put something beautiful in the neighborhood that's attached to the community, is to give them like, you know what, this isn't a shithole.
Yeah, it's not a shithole.
My community is not. Look, you don't have to just throw your trash right there.
Yeah.
Because it always starts somewhere, right? It's like people start throwing shit on the ground. Next thing you know, it's not that big a deal, and it's not like a malicious thing. Yeah. But then slowly over time, it just gets shittier.
And
shittier.
Like I said, and it's a mix of things too, and it goes back to the lack of, like I said, it's people and like I said, not the majority of people. It's actually a small group of people who do that shit. And then it's the lack of it's like the lack of care that certain cities have for those areas. Why? Because it's brown and black people there, so they don't care as much for it. So like I said, it's like it's this big fucking melting pot of problems, man. And
there's no money there.
And there's no money there.
I often wonder, because I think that the history of America is obviously racist, and the systems that were built and things that were put
absolutely.
in place. And when I look at it now, so much of it seems the capitalism is completely taken over everything. So wherever there is money, money will congregate to, or whatever generates money, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
You know?
And speaking of I remember a few years ago I got asked to do this when COVID first hit. I got asked to do this project where it was like they wanted a painting of what COVID looked like in the Mexican neighborhood, how COVID hit us in the Mexican neighborhood. And I was like, bro, you go fuck yourself. How about that? I'm like, how dare you want me to paint something for you for money that is people suffering, right? Of what you're saying, right? And you want, I don't know,
what was their intention for that?
They wanted to show how COVID is affecting the brown and black neighborhood.
And they were going to use that for their political purposes?
I don't know what they were going to use it for, but I'm just like, bro, like, why would you want artwork like that? At this point, you already know
the suffering of brown people sells.
Hello.
We got a lot to dig into, because I think these are the issues that you and I are going to be spending a lot of time on.
And within, whether, like I said, I tell people, whether I'm painting a cheeseburger, where I'm painting this, like I said, whether it be Dick Gregory or Cantinflas or whatever the case may be, these characters that I paint, these things that I paint, are to enrich our cultures, to show how that we are strong.
Which is really a funny example of that is what's sitting on this table right now.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a young kid that may not have seen National Geographic books or anything.
Let me cut you off real quick. Najero, the best pods.
There you go. little product placement right there.
Shout out Divine Distillers as well.
There you go.
Chef's table.
Anything else you want to talk?
Yeah, that's it.
What about the tamale pop?
Tamale pop soon.
Okay.
So the next podcast.
We got to get your website set up so we can sell some prints too.
Right.
But something like this, because, you know, our generation, you know, we grew up with Dragon Ball Z. You know, a lot of we don't have a lot of Black and Latino cartoons, superheroes and things like that. And what's funny is that a lot of us drifted over into anime.
Yeah.
You know, and
which is weird.
It's weird, but it's real, because so it resonated with so many of us. And the thing is that anime is distinctly not American. The values of the characters, the values of the messages are not American values. And anime really resonated with me, and it still resonates to this day. Where now it's like, you know, I see these kids and I'm like, bro, you're wearing a Naruto shirt, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And kid's hard as shit.
Yeah.
Hard as shit. Tattoos on his face and has a Naruto shirt. Bro, I've seen it, bro. Yeah. I've seen it.
And it's like, dude, you don't even know what it was like back in the day to have to hunt this down.
Yeah.
But, you know, this picture, could you tell us a little bit about this? Because one, the reason I mentioned anime was because there seems to be an anime inspiration, but then where anime is a part of our modern upbringing as young minority men, and I don't know the role it's played in minority girls' lives, but I know for young minority men, anime has played a pretty big part in our current culture. But that marriage I told you between the present and the past is represented in this.
Yeah. So
do you mind telling us a little bit about this?
Yeah, bro. It's you have the Aztec temples, right? And I'm gonna try to keep it simple, but it's like I said, I'm gonna keep it funky too. I love Dragon Ball Z, and I've been wanting to produce this idea for a long time, and so one night I got really high, And bro, like I was like, I'm like, this shit's gonna come out right now, and I did it quick. I did it like in 2 hours, and so maybe 3. And obviously it's digitally done, and it just took me to that place, bro, to being a kid and being like, it connected me to that place, to King Kai's place, me wanting it to be real, me wanting to be like, bro, like I said, now we're going down the nerd wormhole.
Let's go,
right?
baby. Let's
go. To my philosophy and thoughts of somewhere deep down in my core, I think that the sayings are real, and maybe one day, if they are, I could present this to them and be like, look, I want to be part of your people.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I don't. To be honest with you, man, it's just like this. Anything that for me, like for Dragon Ball Z, and I put the Aztec shit in it, or I put like the kids from the Boondocks in it, bro. To me, like, people gotta understand, bro. That's literally my soul.
Yeah.
And it's like it takes me back to being 12 years old with me, my brother, and my cousin Carlos, his friend Robbie, me, and just a house full of Mexican kids, literally sitting around drawing all fucking weekend, watching Dragon Ball Z episodes.
Yeah.
It takes me back to that place, that safe spot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that where you weren't paying bills. We're literally, it's corny, like that meme says, oh yeah, it's Friday night and Blockbuster or whatever. Mm-hmm. But literally what it was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, we'd always fight for the mechanical pencils because we only had maybe 1 or 2 mechanical pencils, and everybody loved to use those. So it takes me back to like those little arguments, me hitting the Stone Cold Stunner of my older brother.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? That's
this.
That's this, and it ties kids in. That's for me, right? But it also ties kids in because the first time I saw Dragon Ball Z was in Mexico.
Okay.
The first time I saw it, shout out to my cousin Peter. But he's the one that showed me Dragon Ball Z, and I was like 6 years old. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen when I saw it, and it was in Japanese still. We were watching import tapes, and when I saw this on the wall, because again, same memories.
Yeah.
I used to record it when it came out, but I still remember, man, I was a kid, and I got a Dragon Ball Z like card deck like that thick. I traded this kid like a bunch of pogs for it, and it was like my prized possession.
Yeah.
And this was back when they had pictures of Goku when he went Super Saiyan. I thought it was a different character because we didn't know. We had no frame of reference that Goku powered up at that time.
Yeah.
But when I saw this, you have King Kai's planet, right? The place where Goku dies and then goes to train. And it's this neat little planet where this powerful God-type figure lives.
Yeah.
And then I saw that the Aztec temple on the top. And I was like, dude, how dope is that? Because a kid that doesn't know what that temple is going to be like, dude, that Dragon Ball Z, oh, what's that? That's cool. It's like, you know what? It's a piece of history.
Bro, there's some kid in Mexico, I hope, that saw this, bro, and was just like I said, bro, like it's weird because what I've learned, especially about anime, is that brown and black culture, like you said it too, we watch it religiously, and we never really saw people that look like us in anime, and if we did, it was pretty fucking racist.
Yeah.
Let's keep it 1,000.
They had the big lips.
Yeah. Or even like Piccolo. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knew Piccolo was black.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody knew Piccolo was black. I don't give a fuck who you are. You knew Piccolo was black, you racist motherfucker. Right? And there ain't nothing wrong with that, right? There ain't nothing wrong with it. But you knew just how these artists would create people of color, and I fucking hate that phrase too. A black person or a brown person, they just turn them into a different fucking creature. Yeah. Most of the time, right? And so, but for kids to see this, right? Even that, and for some reason we all brush it off aside, and to this day when it comes to Dragon Ball Z. Yeah. But when kids see this, especially like they say, if you're in Mexico or whatever the case may be, I want them to connect and be like, you know what? I'm like, because we love that. I don't know. It's this weird connection I have with that fucking show, bro. I fucking love that show.
It's not. Here's the thing: is that
it's religion.
It is. I mean, it's a lot of. Even though, there wasn't much representation for us. Listen, they were bright characters.
Yeah.
But you did not look at them like they were white people per se.
Yeah.
They were aliens, and they had alien values, right? Like they had values that are identifiable with more minority cultures: strength, training, honor, loyalty, never giving up. You know, all these things that really tie us to, because it ties us to our experience, right? It's, you know what, you're gonna get beat down, and you gotta come back, and you know what, like
you're not from this planet.
You're not from here. And you're different.
Yeah, bro. See, that's the thing that, bro. There we go. You nailed it, bro. That's literally the thing that like I said, even though Goku had blue eyes when he fucking turned Super Saiyan or whatever it is, but the thing is that you knew they weren't from there.
No, and the blue eyes did not. It's not that he was whiter. It was just a representation that he changed, that he evolved, that you could evolve. That, you know what, the main character doesn't always win.
Yeah, he
has to get better. He has to evolve, and you got to watch that happen in real time, and you got to follow their journey, you know, through it. And it was a long journey with ups and downs, and different people would shine at different times. We're gonna have a good time talking about that, because there's something about anime that speaks to our culture in ways that the traditional, you know, apple pie and American flags was not the way that we were raised. You know, and I think, you know, we have white friends that love us, that do not understand that, you know, the way that they got to be absorbed into American culture is very different from ours. Yeah. And we don't dislike you. You know, it's just a different upbringing, and it's one of the reasons why we see things a little differently. So I want to spend a whole show talking about that, but I really appreciate you coming on, sharing with me a little bit about what it is to be an artist. You got some murals coming up right now, don't you?
Yes, sir. Downtown Vancouver. I'm working on a Ricky Simon and Ed Herman and a Bill Russell one.
Okay.
And then I'm also working on a beautiful Romani woman. I'm working on that in downtown Vancouver. Okay. And then I'm going to be painting a lowrider here soon.
That's what's up.
Yeah. So I'm going back into the airbrush for a project. I'm going to be doing that one. And then let me see which other one. I got a couple other ones in the Citywood Village. A couple pieces here and there.
Okay. Where can people go to take a look at some of your artwork?
You go a little bit of everywhere. You go to if you want to go get some food in Portland, you go to Portland Burger. If you want to go to Salem, you want to see if you want to go get a good workout in, you go to Flex Fitness. If you want to see something patriotic, you go to Oregon Valley Roofing. If you're in Albany, you could go to Northwest Mechanical to go see my Marcelino Serna piece. If you are in Vancouver, obviously you go next to Local Boy Tatao to where we're painting at. I have a few murals down there. In a Nonovo Pizza, I don't know, man. You just drive, brother.
How about online?
Online, yeah. There we go. Super Mario Paints on Instagram.
Okay,
that's Super Mario Paints.
Dude, I can't thank you enough. I'm looking forward to these continuing conversations, because we got a lot to talk about. One, our community. Yeah. Two, we got a bunch of anime conversations to have. But I can't thank you enough for joining me today, brother.
Hey, bro. No, thank you for having me. And like I said, sorry for postponing it.
Nah, it's all good.
Yeah.
We got it in, and now we got the template for the rest. So
hell yeah,
appreciate it. Thank you all for listening.
Have a good one.
All right. Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. Until next time, I'm Michael Marks, and this is my mark on the world of men.